Ladies and gentlemen, so this time last year we did a survey on the channel. We kind of did two surveys. The initial one was to crown the worst champion of every single class at the end of 2016, and then we did an additional survey to crown kind of the overall worst champion. And if you remember the results, the overall loser or winner of this competition, however you want to view it, was Spider-Gwen. She was crowned the worst champion of 2016, and we actually saw a lot of these characters very coincidentally get buffed in 12.0, you know, going over some of the results that we had from last year. So in terms of science, Spider-Gwen won by an absolute landslide. Luke Cage and Joe Fixit were a little bit behind. A lot of votes for She-Hulk and Ant-Man as well. As Abomination. Skill was by far Winter Soldier, who also got buffed in patch 12.0. And behind that was Karnak and Falcon and Hawkeye. I don't know why Hawkeye was there, man. I got mad love for Hawkeye right now. And then we have, in the worst Cosmic Champion, by far Kamala Khan, who has seen no changes this year, and then Groot was a second. So these are again last year's results. Mutant was very divided. You know, some people voting Gambit, Magneto, Marvel Now, a little bit for Colossus, Beast, Old Man Logan. When I opened this, I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh, surely Colossus would have won by a landslide. But I remember both Colossus and Hulkbuster weren't actually that bad for Alliance War Defense, while Willpower was still scaling off modified health, so you can put them on like a really chunky health node, like they increased their health by like 300%, and Willpower, because they were such tank champions and had such a resistant to damage, would just heal them for like so much. So they used to be alright, but since 12.0, I feel like Colossus, I don't know, he might come up for Mutant this year. And then we had the tech one, which the overall loser was Iron Patriot, War Machine a very close second. And again, Hulkbuster was third, but he really didn't get many votes at all. Like, you'd expect a lot more today. So I'm very interested to see, you know, how this survey shapes up this year. And then finally we had the worst Mystic Champion. It was between Loki for Jane Foster and Unstoppable Colossus, but by quite a large margin, Loki got the most votes. And there have been a couple of interesting uses for Loki, you know, especially in the last like couple of months, mainly with the Hela synergy and also the final 5.4 Ultron. So yeah, I'm interested to see if he's going to make that list. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to vote in this year's survey, if you haven't already seen the link, it is just in the description of this video. But I want to go through kind of each of the classes and have a look at all of the characters just laid out in front of me, and, you know, talk about who I believe are some of the worst champions of you know, every single class at the moment. I'm going to start off with Science, which, you know, isn't in the best state. We're really hoping that the start of 2018 with the introduction of, hopefully, Science characters like Sentry, Void, Gladiator, Hulk is really going to bolster the Science class a bit more. But I think there could be quite a few options here. I reckon Joe Fixit, She-Hulk, Ant-Man, Red Hulk, Luke Cage. They're all fairly good candidates for the worst Science champion of 2017. So I'm really interested to see how that one pans out. I think overall, like, which champion like I'd be bummed most about seeing is Luke Cage, really, because he just does not really have anything going for him. So I think out of all the Science champions, I think Luke Cage, he probably has my vote for the worst Science champion of this year. Let's switch over to the skill class now, which I think is a little bit more of a difficult one. I really think a lot of the skill champions, they're kind of in an alright place. There's a decent amount going on in the skill class, but I think kind of some of the worst options at the moment, I really do think it's probably between Karnak, Falcon, and Netflix Daredevil. And to be honest, like, all of those characters, they all have a little bit going for them. They're not completely trash, but, you know, in comparison to the insane utility that some of the top skill characters have, like Blade and Gwenpool and Thor Ragnarok, and also Taskmaster, and Elektra and Crossbones, like, there are a lot of good skill characters that I feel in a really decent place. But you could maybe argue Kingpin as well. Like, Kingpin doesn't really have too much going for him. His buff shrug-off is very unreliable. He's got a little bit of ability accuracy reduction. I think, to be honest, Kingpin is very similar in terms of his usefulness to Karnak, Falcon, Daredevil. So yeah, I'm not really too sure. I think Kingpin, I don't know, might potentially be a candidate for the worst skill champion. But again, ladies and gentlemen, it is all up to you. It's all up to the community to vote on this. Who you believe is the worst champion of every single class. So we have the Mutant class, and I think I reckon it'll probably be between the top three options, well, the three options that are in the top left-hand corner at the moment. But I feel like it's going to be Colossus or Magneto Marvel now. I don't know, that's very much the vibe I get, but simultaneously there are characters that have been really left behind by the power creep. I think Deadpool X-Force, like, he's nowhere near as hype as he used to be. I feel like the thing is with Deadpool X-Force, once Gwenpool came out, which is just like she's just so infinitely better in every single way in comparison to Deadpool X-Force. Like, she really put that Deadpool character in the bin, comparatively speaking. Because yeah, whenever somebody brings up Deadpool X-Force, which to be honest, rarely they do. I swear this character never gets talked about anymore. But yeah, I always bring up Gwenpool, man. I'm like, you know, you've got even stronger bleed, you've got ability accuracy reduction, you got power lock on the special 2, you got armor break on the special 3. There's just so much more that Gwenpool can do, comparatively speaking, and the damage output just doesn't even come close with the Deadpool X-Force. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like Gambit, a lot more people nowadays are appreciating that chain stun on the special 1, so I think Gambit's been getting quite a bit of love this year. The Cyclops characters as well, they don't have too much going for them, but I'd much rather see a Cyclops, you know, personally speaking, I'd much rather see a Cyclops in my Crystal in comparison to a Colossus or a Marvel Now version of Magneto. So yeah, I'm interested to see what comes up, you know, in terms of the X-Men class. Now, in terms of the Cosmic class, it's going to be an interesting one, because I think there are a lot of fairly wet noodle characters, like Groot especially. I think with all of the Mystic champions like Dr. Voodoo and Mordo and Morningstar coming to popularity, like Groot, is he just ever getting used anywhere? Like on Alliance War Defense, he's just so easy to mow down with like a wide variety of champions. I think maybe in the very, you know, if it's your first like month or so of playing, a Groot in Alliance War Defense, like it might get a kill or two on you, but aside from that, Groot is just so easy to fight. He's an awful champion to play, but then he has to rival with both Kamala Khan and also Carnage, and as much as everybody, you know, really dislikes Carnage, I think, you know, Carnage, he has a lot more damage potential than Kamala Khan and Groot, comparatively speaking, if you were to play the character. But then again, Carnage doesn't have any defense potential. So yeah, I'm not too sure, but I believe it's probably going to be between Carnage, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and also Groot for potentially the worst Cosmic. But I don't know, some arguments could be made for like Venom being in the place, but Venom, I think Venom and Venom, man, they've just got a little bit too much love, because a lot of people just enjoy playing those characters. Now we move on to the Tech class, where I think there are a couple of candidates that, well, I think 3 candidates in particular that spring into mind when I look at the Tech class. I think Hulkbuster, War Machine, and Iron Patriot. I feel like this is where the match is going to be for the worst character of 2017 here. Like Hulkbuster, again, we're talking about the adjustments to kind of base health and how regeneration changed in 12.0, which really ruined Hulkbuster and also Colossus for Alliance War defense. So, I just don't really know a super great use for any Hulkbusters at the moment. War Machine, I don't know, you could use them on Unblockable Special 1. Doesn't seem too bad for that. But aside, he's not a great character to play. Iron Patriot, you know, you've got the burnout regeneration, and nobody's a huge fan of Iron Patriot. Who else do we have? We got Punisher 2099 and Vulture. They're still, even though they're not the best of the new batch, but they're still like, I'd much rather see a Vulture or a Punisher 2099 appear in like a Crystal than an Iron Patriot, Hulkbuster, or War Machine. So yeah, that's just kind of my initial thoughts there on the Tech class, but we'll see what the survey says. And then I think by far the hardest one is probably the Mystic class, because I feel like every champion in the Mystic class has found some sort of interesting use. I feel like the Mystic overall is maybe one of the strongest classes in the game. while is the strongest class in the game. I feel relatively confident saying that, but it's really between, I guess, you got Unstoppable Colossus, ideally a little bit worse than Juggernaut on Alliance War Defense, and not really a great champion to play. You've got Iron Fist, but Iron Fist is still a very fun character to play. His damage output is badass. We have 4 Jane Foster, who is, you know, a less preferred Mystic option. Needs to be awakened, but can dish out, you know, some quite nice damage and some quite nice chain stunts. And then you have Loki, who is very circumstantial in his uses, mainly for buff stealing, which makes him amazing for that final Ultron in 5.4. But aside from that, any scenario where you can't utilize the buffs of your opponent, like Loki he's pretty trash. He ends up in the bin most of the time, like really not bringing too much to the table. But who else could also be in this? I guess you could also maybe say Doctor Strange. Like, because Doctor Strange just makes her a terrible defender. His power game rate is so slow, and his damage output is pretty ass, but he does have a little bit of regeneration potential. So, I don't know. It's a really tough one when it comes to the Mystic class. I have no idea, because I don't think, like, any of the champions are necessarily bad, and you can't really be too unhappy about seeing any of them, but it's really who's the worst of the bunch. I think I'd probably still go with Loki overall. I'd like to see Loki have a few more mechanics so that, you know, he's a useful champion outside of scenarios where he can steal buffs, but again, he's very good for that specific job. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the survey in the description of this video, and also, once you filled out the survey, let me know in the comments who you voted for and why of every single class. I'm really interested. I feel like this year is going to get quite close and quite competitive, and there's not going to be like an obvious answer for every single class. So yeah, I'm really interested to kind of review the results of this survey. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. I might leave it running for like 48 hours just to, you know, get as much data and information from the community as possible. But yeah, really interested to dive into this a little bit more. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, feel free to smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.